Welcome to Civil Services Achievers Point. We are discussing the Assam Tribune of 7th August 2020. So students, let us begin. Here at Civil Services Achievers Point, we have our offline courses, our online courses, and various free initiatives. Students are encouraged to join them and secure their rank in the examination. So we are discussing the Assam Tribune for both preliminary and mains examination as per the new pattern of APSC. Also, this analysis will also be helpful for UPSC and other state level government examinations which candidates may appear. These are the various topics which we will discuss today. We will also discuss the important editorials. So students, let us begin. The first topic which we are discussing today is scholar Professor Amaresh Datta passed away. This topic will come under our GS5, that is General Studies on Assam, Important Personalities, Governance and Social Justice. Internationally acclaimed scholar and educationist, Professor Emeritus Amaresh Datta breathed his last at his residence at Dibrugarh. Condoling the scholar's demise, the Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal tweeted, "Deeply saddened by the demise of Professor Emeritus Dr. Amaresh Datta, a stalwart of modern education in India and renowned scholar of the region. His contribution towards enriching English literature in the nation is immense. My heartfelt condolences to his family and friends." So Professor Datta was an internationally acclaimed scholar and educationist, and he was honored with honorary degrees by Dibrugarh University and Assam University, Silchar. He was born in 1919 in a small town called Iswarsri in Karimganj district, and he joined the Department of English, Guwahati University as reader in 1960. From 1964 to 1980, he served the department as professor and also as the head of the department. Then he joined the Department of English, Dibrugarh University as a professor in 1980 and served as the head of the department till 1984. An erudite scholar on Shakespearean studies, critic and poet, Professor Datta was the chief editor of Encyclopedia of Indian Literatures 1987, published by Sahitya Academy. Now these points are important because APSC may ask a question on the points mentioned or the works of Professor Datta. The Professor Datta's book titled Shakespeare's Tragic Vision and Art 1963 received the highest accolade from eminent scholars and critics like G. Wilson Knight, E.M.W. Tillyard and others. Professor Datta also received many accolades from both national and international organizations and academic institutions for his work. He also visited the Soviet Union in 1987 as a member of the Government India Cultural Delegation. He also penned a novel in Bengali titled Banaprastha. His anthology of poems titled Captive Moments 1952 was published by Michigan University Press, and it received critical acclaim and appreciation and bagged a prestigious award from the International Association of Poetry in Rome. In recognition of his valuable contribution to art, literature and culture, Professor Datta was felicitated and honored with many awards: the Krishnakanta Hendik National Award in 2018 and Saraswat Sanman in 2016. Now coming to the next topic, it's a very important topic. Survivors mark 75th anniversary of world's first atomic attack. This topic we will study under our General Studies 2 paper, International Relations. Survivors of the world's first atomic bombing gathered in diminished numbers near an iconic blasted dome on Thursday to mark the attack's 75th anniversary, many of them urging the world and their own government to do more to ban nuclear weapons. Now we know the first atomic attack that the US did to the Japan, it is the 75th year of that attack. So an upsurge of coronavirus cases in Japan meant a smaller than normal turnout, but the bombing survivors' message was more urgent than ever. So there are many people who survived the attack, and they represented the event which was held in Japan. As their numbers dwindle, their average age is about 83, even as many nations have bolstered or maintained their nuclear arsenals, and their own government refuses to sign a nuclear weapons ban treaty. Amid cries of Japanese government hypocrisy, survivors, their relatives, and officials marked the 8:15 a.m. blast anniversary with a minute of silence. The United States dropped the world's first atomic bomb on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. So this date may be noted down by the students. The United States dropped the world's first atomic bomb on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, destroying the city and killing 140,000 people. The United States dropped a second bomb. So the first bomb was dropped on Hiroshima on August 6th. The United States dropped a second bomb 3 days later on Nagasaki, killing another 70,000 people. After that, Japan surrendered August 15, ending World War II and its nearly half century of aggression in Asia. So the first bomb was dropped on August 6. The second bomb was dropped 3 days later, and by August 15, Japan surrendered. Now, students will find it interesting that our Independence date has something to do with this, because our Independence Day was chosen as August 15 by the last British Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, as August 15, because that August 15 date is relevant because Japan surrendered to the Allies, basically to the British, on August 15. So that is why our Independence date was chosen as August 15 by Lord Mountbatten. Now coming to the topic, but the decades since have seen the weapons stockpiling of the World War and a nuclear standoff among nations that continues to this day. Amid the solemn remembrances at Hiroshima's Peace Park, Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, was confronted on Thursday by 6 members of survivors group over a treaty. The milestone 75th anniversary of the atomic bombing is a chance to change course. Abe insisted on Japan's policy not to sign the treaty, vaguely citing a different approach, though he added that the government shares the goal of eliminating nuclear weapons. Even though Tokyo renounces its own possession, production, or hosting of nuclear weapons, Japan is a top US ally which hosts 50,000 American troops and is protected by the US nuclear umbrella. So coming to the next topic, no communication from Pakistan on Kulbhushan case, Ministry of External Affairs has said. This topic will come under General Studies 2 paper, International Relations. India today said has not yet communicated to it. Pakistan has not yet communicated to it about the developments relating to the case involving Indian death row convict Kulbhushan Jadhav, and demanded unimpeded, unhindered, and unconditional consular access to him as mandated by an international tribunal. The Islamabad High Court has named 3 senior lawyers as amicus curiae in the case of Jadhav and ordered the Pakistan government to give another chance to India to appoint a counsel for the death row prisoner. As we know, Kulbhushan Jadhav, an Indian official who was arrested in Pakistan, and he was sentenced to death by an by an Pakistan court, military court. Now, India has said that Pakistan has not yet communicated to it about the developments relating to the case involving Kulbhushan Jadhav, and the Islamabad High Court has named 3 senior lawyers as amicus curiae. Amicus curiae means it is a friend or an advisor in the case of Jadhav, and ordered the Pakistan government to give another chance to India to appoint a counsel for the death row prisoner. Srivastava said Pakistan needs to implement the order to the order of the International Court of Justice in the case and make available relevant documents to India, besides providing unimpeded, unhindered, and unconditional consular access to him. So, as we know, the International Court of Justice uh, decided, or rather directed the Pakistan government to give consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav. In 2017, India approached the International Court of Justice (ICJ) against Pakistan for denial of consular access to Jadhav and challenging the death sentence. The Hague-based ICJ ruled in July 2019 that Pakistan must undertake an effective review and reconsideration of conviction and sentence of Jadhav, and also to grant consular access to India without further delay. The whole exercise of not providing any documents related to the case, even after repeated requests, not providing an unimpeded consular access, and some reported unilateral action of approaching the High Court on part of Pakistan, again exposes the farcical nature of Pakistan's approach, Srivastava said last month. So from the Ministry of External Affairs, it is said that the approach of the Pakistan is farcical or superficial in nature. As we know that Kulbhushan Jadhav, the 50-year-old retired Indian Navy officer, was sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court on charges of espionage and terrorism in April 2017. Now coming to our next topic, Prime Minister to inaugurate Rohtang Tunnel in September last week. This topic will come under General Studies 1 topic, Geography of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to inaugurate the 8.8 kilometer long Rohtang Tunnel being built on the Leh-Manali highway in the last week of September. So this topic is important because on which highway this tunnel is being built may be asked by APSC in the preliminary examination. Further, the tunnel will give all-weather connectivity to the remote and border areas of the state. The strategically important project is being completed at a cost of around 3,200 crore. The tunnel, which was a dream of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, is expected to be inaugurated in the last week of September. It will give all-weather connectivity to the remote and border areas. So this tunnel, as it was a dream of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, it is also to be named as Atal Rohtang Tunnel. So this point, students, please make it a note so that if any question comes regarding this point in APSC, we may answer it correctly. Also, please check our daily MCQs, because some of the important topics which may come as in the form of MCQs, we are providing them free of cost. You are encouraged to join our WhatsApp group to avail the same materials for free. The tunnel is one of the longest road tunnels in the country and is being built at an elevation of 10,171 feet under Rohtang Pass in the eastern Pir Panjal range of the Himalayas. So here, on the eastern side of the Pir Panjal range of the Himalayas, it will reduce the distance between Manali and Lahaul Spiti's administrative center, Kelong, by around 45 kilometers. So these informations are important. Students should make a note of it and revise them periodically. Now coming to the next topic, very important topic, RBI retains lending rates, maintains accommodative stance. This topic will come under General Studies 3, Economic Development. To curb the rise in inflation and stabilize the general economic environment, the Reserve Bank today retained its key short-term lending rates but maintained its growth-oriented accommodative stance. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank maintained the repo rate or short-term lending rate for commercial banks at 4%. Likewise, the reverse repo rate stands unchanged at 3.35% and the marginal standing facility MSF rate and the bank rate at 4.25%. So these are very important points in the monetary policy of the RBI. So in the next slide, we will discuss the various terms mentioned here. It was expected that the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee might hold rates, as recent data showed that the inflation has been at an elevated level during June. The Consumer Price Index, which indicates the retail inflation, stood at 6.09% in June. The urban CPI stood at 5.91% and the rural CPI stood at 6.20%. the RBI maintains a medium-term CPI inflation target of 4%. So here in this slide, we are discussing the important terms which were mentioned. Repo rate. What is a repo rate? The repo rate in easy language is the rate at which RBI lends to the commercial banks against government securities. So reduction in repo rate helps the commercial banks to get money at a cheaper rate. So if bank will get money in cheaper rate, then it will be available. It will be able to give more money into the public, to the customers. So, however, increase in repo rate discourages the commercial banks to get money as the rate increases and becomes expensive. Reverse repo rate. What is a reverse repo rate? It is a reverse of the repurchase order rate. That is the repo rate. The reverse repo rate is the rate at which RBI borrows money from the commercial banks. So, students are advised to make a note of these definitions and keep revising them regularly. Now coming to the bank rate. What is the bank rate? The bank rate is basically a discount rate, or is the rate of interest charged by the RBI for providing funds or loans to the banks. Now these are the few highlights of the Monetary Policy Committee. So we have discussed the important ones from this. Given the uncertainty surrounding the inflation outlook and extremely weak state of the economy in the midst of an unprecedented shock from the ongoing pandemic, the MPC decided to keep the policy rate on hold while remaining watchful for a durable reduction in inflation to use available space to support the revival of the economy, the RBI governor said. On the growth front, Shaktikant Das, the RBI governor, said that the real GDP growth is estimated to be negative during financial year 2020-21 as a whole. An early containment of the COVID-19 pandemic may impart an upside to the outlook. A more protracted spread of the pandemic, deviations from the forecast of a normal monsoon, and global financial market volatility are the key downside risks. Now coming to the next topic, it's a very important topic, and a sure short question may be expected in APSC or rather also in UPSC prelims examination. The RBI to bring changes in the PSL category. The PSL is priority sector lending category. See, certain sectors or certain industries or sectors are in the PSL category. So whenever any industry or sector is mentioned under PSL category, then various credit-based schemes, various government policies are made available to the sectors. Now coming to the changes which has been brought to the PSL scheme, let us see the news. The Reserve Bank of India today decided to broaden, to expand the scope of the priority sector lending by including startups and enhancing borrowing limits for renewable energy sectors. So the the various startups and the renewable energy sectors are brought under the domain of priority sector lending. The central bank would also increase the targets for lending to small and marginal farmers and weaker sections under the PSL. The eligible entities get access to credit on easier terms from banks under PSL. So what is the priority sector lending? Under priority sector lendings, the entities or the sectors which are mentioned under these categories, they get easy access to credit on easier terms from banks. So banks are required to assign 40% of adjusted net bank credit or credit equivalent amount of off-balance sheet exposure, whichever is higher, to priority sector, including agriculture and micro enterprises, it said. The guidelines regarding the priority sector lending were last reviewed by the RBI in April 2015. So after approximately 5 years, the priority sector lending has been revised. With a view to align the guidelines with emerging national priorities and bring sharper focus on inclusive development, the guidelines have been reviewed after wide-ranging consultations with the different stakeholders, the RBI said. The revised guidelines, students must note that in the current affairs, many statements of RBI governor and RBI committees are put under inverted quotes. I have directly quoted the statements. So sometimes in examination, the quotations or the speech sentences used by the president, the prime minister, the Supreme Court chief justice, the governor with respect to a state, the chief minister, the RBI governor. So these personalities or these persons quotes and speeches are very important because directly from their speeches questions may come in prelims and also in mains. So students are advised to make a note of it. Now coming to the topic, the revised guidelines also aim to encourage and support environment-friendly lending policies to help achieve sustainable development goals. Broadening the scope of the priority sector lending it has been decided to include startups, increasing the limits for renewable energy, including solar power and compressed biogas plants, and increasing the targets for lending to small and marginal farmers and weaker sections. So these points are to be important. That how the priority sector scope has been increased. So these points has to be remembered. To address the regional disparities in the flow of priority sector credit, an incentive framework has already been put in place for banks. While higher weight would be assigned for incremental priority sector credit in the identified districts where credit flow is comparatively lower, a lower weight would be assigned to incremental priority sector credit in identified districts where the credit flow is comparatively higher. So what this statement is saying that to address the regional disparities, বেলেগ বেলেগ জাগাত ধৰক ক্ৰেডিট ফ্লোটো বেলেগ বেলেগ হৈ আছে, তো হেতুক আমি এডজাস্ট কৰিবলৈ an incentive framework has been designed. তো য'ত আপোনাৰ ক্ৰেডিট ফ্লোটো comparatively lower হৈ আছে তাতে higher weight is given for the priority sector credit. Okay, and য'ত credit ফ্লোটো ঠিক ঠাক comparatively higher হৈ আছে, a lower weight would be assigned to incremental priority sector credit. So itwe hoise the various revisions made in the priority sector lending by RBI and students moi jenake koisu etu mane questions ahibo pare in both prelims and mains. Etia ami discuss korim. Now we will discuss the important editorials. So the first editorial is very important because this editorial gives us a very brief understanding of what are the positives and what are the challenges regarding our national education policy. National education policy report by education sector report ekhon essay both in APSC and UPSC sure shot ahibo aru hei essay topic report joa kali Sunday ekhon essay amar likhibolo dia hoise. So students সকলক মই অনুৰোধ কৰিছো যে এখন এছে লিখাৰ প্ৰেক্টিস কৰক. The essay খন আমি গ্ৰুপত দিছো, WhatsApp গ্ৰুপত দিয়া আছে, আমাৰ Facebook আৰু Instagram চেনেলতো দিয়া আছে. Students are encouraged to join our Facebook and Instagram channels and also our WhatsApp groups. Now coming to the editorial, this editorial making sense of national education policy. This topic will come under our paper General Studies 2, Governance and Social Justice. The National Education Policy NEP 2020 has arrived at a momentous time in India when the entire globe is abuzz as to the future of education in the post-pandemic world. Gote পৃথিৱীখনে এই কৰোনা ভাইৰাছৰ পেণ্ডেমিকৰ পাছত আমাৰ শিক্ষা ব্যৱস্থাটো কেনেকুৱা হ'ব সেইটো লৈ পিনে যেটো চিন্তা চৰ্চা কৰি আছে, সেই সময়তে আমাৰ নতুন শিক্ষা নীতি the National Educational Policy 2020 যোনটো আগবঢ়াইছে এটো এটা ভাল ডিসিশন, এটা ডাঙৰ ডিসিশন বুলি কোৱা হৈছে. So many have hailed it as an groundbreaking and still others are skeptical about its actual implementation. Undoubtedly, a great deal of thought and deliberation has gone into it. The draft of the NEP was published in 22 languages and given to all stakeholders. 2.5 lakh gram panchayats were consulted to make it participative in nature. So, এজনখন draft national education policy খন আছিলে, সেইখন 22টা ভাষাত পাবলিশ কৰা হৈছিলে, প্ৰায় সকলো stakeholdersক দিয়া হৈছিলে আৰু 2.5 লাখ গ্রাম পঞ্চায়েত মানে গ্রাসরুট লেভেললৈকে দিয়া হৈছিলে যাতে whole decision making to participative in nature hoy. Critics who are slamming the NEP, the National Education Policy, will do well should remember that India's performance in the 2013 Program for International Student Assessment (PISA) test conducted by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development (OECD) to gauge the level of school education in nations of the world was pathetic. So a PISA test Program for International Student Assessment Testত আমাৰ ইণ্ডিয়াৰ পাৰফৰমেন্স খুব ভাল নাছিলে আৰু India stood at the very bottom with just Kyrgyzstan below us. Central Asian যখন country আছে Kyrgyzstan তাৰে খালি Kyrgyzstane তলত আছিলে below us. The then government was so embarrassed it banned the test. আমি আমাৰ গভৰ্ণমেণ্টে এই টেষ্টটো বেন কৰা হ'ল ইণ্ডিয়াত আৰু the overall level of school education needed revamping. যে আমাৰ শিক্ষা ব্যৱস্থাটোৰ স্কুলীয়া শিক্ষা ব্যৱস্থাৰ যে এটা ৰিভিজন আৰু ৰিভ্যাম্পিং দৰকাৰ হৈছে হেতু তেতিয়া ফিল কৰা হ'ল যে এটা নেসেসিটি আহি পৰিছে now এতিয়া আমি some কিছুমান excellent recommendations some of the excellent recommendations are to streamline preschool education until the age of 6 and introduce learning to the mother tongue at the foundational level until grade 5 sorry মাতৃভাষাত grade 5 লগে পঢ়োৱাৰ ব্যৱস্থা কৰা হৈছে insightful studies commissioned by the UNESCO and enlightened individuals have emphasized this time and again. This is not to say that English would be sidelined. ইংৰাজীক sideline কৰিবলৈ কোৱা হোৱা নাই কিন্তু কাৰণ ইংৰাজী হৈছে এটা ইউনিভাৰ্সাল ল্যাঙ্গুৱেজ আৰু গ্লোবালাইজেশন গ্লোবালীকৰণৰ কাৰণে সকলো জায়গাতে ইংৰাজী লাগিবই আৰু আমাৰ ষ্টুডেন্টস must be ready to compete in the real world. কিন্তু আমাৰ এই নিউ এডুকেশন পলিসি clearly says wherever possible jote possible hoy students till class 5 in schools should be taught in mother tongue or the regional language or the local language and that no language will be imposed কোনো language impose kora nohoy but jote possible hoy wherever possible till class 5 mother tongue hok really regional language hok ba local language hok tate parahona hobo lage. Educational psychology also prescribes that there is enough room for immersive bilingual education. দুই ভাষাত bilingual education মাতৃভাষা আৰু ইংৰাজীত পঢ়াব পৰাটো educational psychologist বিলাকেও এটো সাপোর্ট কৰে. Teachers are expected to use the bilingual and multilingual approach. As one sees it, teaching important concepts in the local language is the best way forward in the city schools since our students come from different cultural backgrounds. বিভিন্ন cultural আৰ্থ-সামাজিক আৰু সাংস্কৃতিক ব্যাকগ্ৰাউণ্ডৰ পৰা যেহেতু আহে তো important concepts সমূহ লোকেল ভাষাত স্থানীয় ভাষাত যদি পঢ়োৱা হয় it's a best way বুলি কোৱা হৈছে. Secondly, the NEP, the National Education Policy, junks rote learning in favor of experiential learning related to the real world. মানে মুখস্থ বিদ্যাতকে অলপ experiential learning অভিজ্ঞতা সম্পন্ন লাৰ্নিংত গুৰুত্ব দিয়া হৈছে. Thirdly, a strict division between various streams or vocational and non-vocational subjects will cease. আমাৰ যে এটা strict division আছে arts stream, science stream, commerce stream এনেকুৱা strict division বোৰ লাহেকে এইবোৰ গুছাই দিয়া হ'ব বা এৰাই দিয়া হ'ব and this will boost multidisciplinary education which will increase professional and skilling opportunities. So একোজন student multidisciplinary education আহিব তেতিয়া তেওঁলোকৰ skilling opportunities ভাল হ'ব, professional তেওঁলোকৰ talent বোৰ বাঢ়িব, তেতিয়া job they will be able to have a good job. এটা কি হৈছে আমাৰ ইন্ডিয়াত স্টুডেন্ট বেছিভাগ স্টুডেন্টে যেতিয়া এডুকেশন সিস্টেমৰ পৰা ওলাই আহে বহুতে কয় ইন্ডাস্ট্ৰি সেক্টৰৰ পৰা কোৱা হয় যে they are not job worthy or they cannot be given job. So এনেকুৱা multidisciplinary education পালে কি হ'ব the students will be not only educated skilled professional they will be job ready. কাৰণ আমাৰ ইন্ডিয়াত unemployment এটা খুব চিন্তনীয় বিষয়. So employment generate কৰাত আৰু employment generation এটা বেলেগ ইস্যু আৰু স্টুডেন্ট সকলক employable বনোৱাটো এটা ইস্যু. গতিকে আমি employment generation কৰিব লাগিব আৰু এটো এনশিওৰ কৰিব লাগিব যে স্টুডেন্ট সমূহ যিসকলে পাস হৈ আহিছে আমাৰ এডুকেশন system they are also employable. Fourthly, tracking students in class 3, 5 and 8 through a reliable standardized assessment will help improve their performance through conceptual understanding. Classes 3, 5 or 8 or a reliable standardized assessment through the performance through conceptual understanding check kora hobo. Fifthly, it is very important, coding will be compulsory from grade 6, which will go a long way in enhancing the analytical and problem solving skills of students. আমি জানো আজি ডিজিটাল রেভলিউশন হইছে, যাক আমার artificial intelligence, machine learning, coding, এই সকল the new trends in our science and technology. So students komu class 6 or পৰাই coding শিকিব, and its best feature is to launch a mission to achieve basic language and math skills by grade 6, grade 3 for all children by 2025. This should give them much needed fillip to school education, provided the many challenges in the roadmap are overcome. খালি এটা কিছুমান challenges আছে, যেনেকৈ আমাৰ critic সকলে কৈছে, the critics of the NEP have rightly pointed out that the document is rather vague about tackling teacher absenteeism and ghost schools in many parts of India. The fact that in many states less than 10% teachers pass the TET or teachers eligibility tests. কিছুমান ক্রিটিকে ক'বলৈ ট্ৰাই কৰিছে যে ডকুমেণ্টখনে ভালকে মেনশন কৰা নাই যে কেনেকৈ আমি টিচাৰ এবচেণ্টিজম আৰু ঘোষ স্কুলছ, মানে স্কুল কাগজত আছে কিন্তু ফিজিক্যালি তাত নাথাকিব পাৰে বা ষ্টুডেণ্ট এনৰোল তাতে নাই ইন মেনি পাৰ্টছ অফ ইণ্ডিয়া, দ্য ফেক্ট দ্যাট ইন মেনি ষ্টেটছ 10%কেও লেছ টিচাৰ্ছে টেট পৰীক্ষাটো পাছ কৰিছে। ক্ৰিটিকসকলে mention কৰিছে, they have rightly mentioned that 6% of GDP is not enough for the huge structural change in school education that the NEP has envisaged. However, an extensive 4 years teacher training program is there on the cards to replace the outdated and largely non-functional B.Ed institutes in the country, which will lend more respectability to the profession. Our teacher সকলৰ ট্ৰেইনিঙৰ কাৰণে ব্যৱস্থা কৰা হৈছে, an extensive 4 years teachers training programৰ ব্যৱস্থা কৰা হৈছে, যেটো B.Ed institute replace কৰাৰ ব্যৱস্থা কৰা হ'ব। The task at hand is giving specialized training to the 80 lakh teachers presently on the job to lend credibility to the vision of NEP. আমাৰ শিক্ষাগুৰুসকলক, আমাৰ টিচাৰ্ছ সকলক এটা স্পেচিয়েলাইজ ট্ৰেইনিং দিয়া হ'ব, যাতে সেই NEP নেশ্যনেল এডুকেশ্যন পলিচিৰ ভিজনটো আমি অলপ ক্ৰেডিবিলিটি আমি ফিউচাৰিষ্টিক ৱেত বস্তুটো চাব পাৰোঁ। It is a welcome relief that teachers will be exempted. Itu point to important that it is a welcome relief that teachers will be exempted from non-academic duties like census and election duty. কাৰণ বেছি সময়ত কি হয় আমি দেখা পাওঁ, টিচাৰ্ছ সকল ক্লাছৰুমলৈ আহিব নোৱাৰে কাৰণ অন্য কিছুমান চৰকাৰী ডিউটি থাকে, আৰু চৰকাৰী ডিউটি হোৱাৰ বাবে সেইবোৰ মানাও কৰিব নোৱাৰে, যিহেতু বেছিভাগ চৰকাৰী স্কুলৰ শিক্ষক থাকে। তেনেহ'লে এই ডিচিশ্যনটো লোৱা হৈছে যে এটা প্ৰপ'জেল দিয়া হৈছে যে নন একাডেমিক ডিউটিজ বোৰৰ পৰা টিচাৰ্ছবোৰক ৰেহাই দিয়া হ'ব, যাতে তেওঁলোকে ফ'কাছ অনলি অন টিচিং। চেঞ্জিং দ্য পেডাগজিকেল ষ্ট্ৰাকচাৰ আমাৰ 10+2 চিষ্টেমৰ পৰা 5+3+3+4 চিষ্টেমলৈ নিয়া হ'ব, ইন লাইন উইথ ইণ্টাৰনেশ্যনেল এডুকেশ্যন ষ্টেণ্ডাৰ্ডছ। আমাৰ ইণ্টাৰনেশ্যনেল চিষ্টেমৰ লগত খাপ খোৱাকৈ আমাৰ চিষ্টেমটো চেঞ্জ কৰা হ'ব। And we can only hope that the focus given to early childhood care and education by the NEP through community engagement does not lose its sight. আৰু proposal দিয়া হৈছে যে এটা single regulator for higher education institutions, multiple entry and exit. এই পইণ্টটো বহুত ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট যে single point regulator হ'বই for higher education institutions, multiple entry and exit options in degree courses. এই পইণ্টটো ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট এই কাৰণে আমি পিছলৈ ডিছকাছ কৰিম, কাৰণ বহু সময়ত বহু ল'ৰা ছোৱালী বিভিন্ন আৰ্থসামাজিক কাৰণৰ কাৰণে স্কুলীয়া শিক্ষা এৰিব লগা হয়, কিন্তু আমাৰ বৰ্তমান চিষ্টেমটো যোনটো আছে 10+2 চিষ্টেমত এবাৰ স্কুলীয়া শিক্ষা এৰিলে আকৌ জইন কৰিবলৈ বহুত দিগদাৰ হৈ যায়। তো এই নিউ এডুকেশ্যন পলিচিটোৱে মাল্টিপল এণ্ট্ৰি এণ্ড এক্সিট অপশ্যনছ মানে ফ্লেক্সিবল কৰি দিছে, যাতে কোনোবা ষ্টুডেণ্টৰ যদি শিক্ষা মাজতে আধৰুৱা হৈ যায় তেওঁলোকে আকৌ এবাৰ এণ্ট্ৰি কৰিব পাৰে। চ' আৰু কি এড কৰা হৈছে, ডিছকণ্টিনিউৱেশ্যন অফ MPhil programs, common entrance exams for universities among the highlights. So indeed, the multiple entry and exit system is an innovation that aims to reduce the dropout rates and gives a chance to students to continue studying despite their economic problems or other family pressures. কিবা কাৰণে যদি স্কুল শিক্ষা ড্ৰপআউট কৰিবলৈ হ'ল তেওঁলোক আগো যাতে জয়েন কৰে। এই কামটো এইকাৰণে কৰা হৈছে কাৰণ আমাৰ ইণ্ডিয়াৰ আপোনালোকে জানিব the focus is to ensure an increase in the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, including vocational education, to 50% by 2023. So, is a notun শিক্ষা নীতি, the new educational policy লোৱা হৈছে 2020 তাৰ মানে ইয়াৰে ফলসমূহ আমি আজি দেখা নাপাওঁ। আজি আমি এইটো ইমপ্লিমেন্ট কৰিলে by 2035 আমি improvements দেখা পাৰো। So, এই নতুন শিক্ষা নীতিটো আমি সময় উপযোগী হিচাপে এতিয়া আমি এইটো ইমপ্লিমেন্ট কৰা উচিত আৰু ইয়াৰে ফলসমূহ আমি নেক্সট 15-20 বছৰ পিছতহে দেখা পাম। So it's high time we implement it, and also after implementation if any modification or any customization is required on ad hoc basis, it may be done. Also in the undergraduate program, a student can opt for a certificate after 1 year, advanced diploma after 2 years, bachelor's degree after 3 years, and bachelor's with research after 4 years. The policy also paves the way for the entry of the world's top 100 universities, which will facilitate to operate in the country through a new law. Our world's top 100 universities of our India lo amontrito kora hobo aru they will be included in allowed entry to India through a new law. কিছু সংখ্যক মানুহে এটো ক্রিটিসাইজ কৰিব বিচাৰিব that a major criticism of allowing foreign universities to operate in India is that they would raise the cost of education through higher education fees, tuition fees pur bahai dibo, and poaching of faculty from public universities and put it out of the reach of a large section of the population. So these concerns remain. মানে কি হ'ব আমি যদি বাহিৰৰ পৰা ফৰেন ইউনিভাৰ্সিটিজ এলাউ কৰো তেওঁলোকে টিউশন ফিজ হায়াৰ টিউশন ফিজ দিব পাৰে কৰিব পাৰে, এন্ড ফেকাল্টি কম আমাৰ যিবোৰ ষ্টেট স্পন্সৰ্ড বা পাব্লিক ইউনিভাৰ্সিটিজ আছে তাৰ পৰা ভাল ভাল ফেকাল্টিবোৰ লৈ ল'ব পাৰে। লৈ ল'লে কি হ'ব কোৱালিটি এডুকেশ্যন আমাৰ লাৰ্জ সেকশন আমাৰ শ্ৰেণীয়ে নাপাব পাৰে। সো এইটো এটা কনসাৰ্ন বা ক্ৰিটিসিজম আহিছে। Besides the Higher Education Commission of India, HECI, it is very important, an MCQ on HECI is expected, or rather a question on mains is also expected. So students, please make a note of it. The Higher Education Commission of India, HECI, will act as a single regulator for higher education, bearing medical and legal colleges in place of the UGC and AICTE, which will be split into 4 independent verticals. The verticals include the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, the National Accreditation Council, the Higher Education Grants Council, and the General Education Council. So HECI, Higher Education Commission of India, single regulator hobo aru tare under saita independent verticals থাকিব, as আমি ডিসকাস কৰিলো। It goes without saying that these regulatory bodies must be independent হ'ব লাগিব, they must be independent, and they must not be biased towards any ideology, and if these things are kept in আমি যদি এইবোৰ বস্তু ensure কৰো, if these are ensured, then the futuristic goal of the NEP is to be achieved, can be achieved, and universities can retain their autonomy, and the quality of education and the skill and the employability of the Indian youth will increase by manifold. So এনেকে আমি এটা কনক্লুজন লিখিব পাৰো যদি কিবা এসে আহে, আৰু এসে এটো শিওর আহিবই, এটো on expected grounds that on the education sector why প্ৰথম কথা আহিব যে আমি লিখিব লাগিব যে প্ৰথম কথা হৈছে যে কিয় এই চেঞ্জেস বোৰ ৰখা হল, এই চেঞ্জেস সমূহ কি চেঞ্জেস সমূহৰ পজিটিভস কি আছে, তাৰ মেজৰ ক্ৰিটিসিজমস কি আছে। আকৌ ক্ৰিটিসিজম লিখিলে এটা কথা, one important point to be always noted in civil services mains examination, if we are writing any criticism point regarding any government policy scheme or any initiative, we must also give certain remedial measures to the criticism points, because without writing the remedial measures for the criticism points, then our answers will be incomplete. So I hope this discussion was helpful in the understanding the new education policy. Now coming to the next topic of the editorial, the mystery blast. As we know, there has been a massive explosion in Lebanon. So this topic we will discuss under General Studies 2 paper, topic international relations. In this editorial, certain interesting angles related to the whole geopolitical scenario in Lebanon has been discussed. So this editorial will be highly beneficial. So let us discuss this editorial. There is more than meets the eye. The massive explosion that shook Lebanon's capital Beirut, killing at least 135 people, wounding around 5,000 and displacing over 3 lakh people. Hundreds continue to be missing, raising the prospect of climbing casualty figures. Authorities have declared Beirut a disaster city. So authorities সকলে declare কৰিছে যে Beirut এখন disaster city হৈ গৈছে and imposed a 2-week state of emergency, placed a number of Beirut port officials under house arrest, and ordered an investigation into the explosion to be focused on an estimated 2,750 metric tons of the explosive ammonium nitrate. Ammonium nitrate এটা explosive আছে যিটো তাতে warehouse store কৰা হৈছিলে in the Beirut port. On the face of it, দেখাত মানে কি, there is not much mystery in how the ammonium nitrate came to be stored there. In background we are discussed কৰা হৈছে, the background has been discussed here. In 2013, the MV Rosas, এখন ship hoy, a Moldovan flagged ship, had set off from Batumi, Georgia, destined for Mozambique, carrying a load of that dangerous chemical used to make fertilizer as well as explosives. Yate etia ami sabo lagibo e Georgia, Mozambique aru Moldova এই দেশসমূহ ক'ত আছে? Students kindly commenter mention কৰিবচোন যে জৰ্জিয়া, মজাম্বিক আৰু মলডোভা ক'ত আছে, আপোনালোকে মেপত এটলাছত চাব বা গুগলত আপোনালোকে চাব পাৰে, গুগলত সাৰ্চ কৰি চাব পাৰে। চাই পিনে আপোনালোকে কাইন্ডলি আমাৰ ইউটিউবৰ চেনেলত কমেন্ট কৰক, কমেন্ট কৰি আপোনালোকে নোট কৰি ৰাখিব যে এই দেশসমূহ ক'ত আছে, কাৰণ এটা প্ৰিলিমছত ইজি কোৱেশ্চনছ আহিব পাৰে। এই লেবাননটো ক'ত আছে এইটো লিখিব, লেবানন, জৰ্জিয়া, মজাম্বিক, মলডোভা, এইবোৰ একেনে লিখা উচিত, কাৰণ নোট কৰিলে আপোনালোকৰ মেমৰিত ইনষ্টিল হৈ থাকিব, আৰু এক্সামত যদি একো কিবা প্ৰশ্ন আহে ৰিগাৰ্ডিং দ্য লোকেশ্যন অফ দিছ কাণ্ট্ৰিজ, তেতিয়া আপোনালোকে ইজিলি কাৰেক্ট আনসাৰ কৰিব পাৰিব। আৰু সুধিবই, ইউপিএসসি সুধে, আৰু যেহেতু এতিয়া এপিএসসিও ইউপিএসসিৰ প্যাটাৰ্ন ফলো কৰিবলৈ বিচাৰি আছে, তেওঁলোকে স্যাম্পল পেপাৰছৰ যিখিনি কোৱেশ্চনছ দিছে সেইখিনি আমি ডিসকাস কৰিম ফ্ৰম সিভিল সাৰ্ভিসেছ এইচএফএছ পইণ্ট অতি সোনকালে। তো ডিসকাশন কৰিলো আপোনালোকক আমি বুজাম যে কেনেকৈ কোৱেশ্চনছবোৰ ফ্ৰেম কৰি আছে আৰু আমি কেনেকৈ পঢ়া উচিত। সো কাইন্ডলি ষ্টুডেন্টস যিবোৰ কান্ট্ৰিজ আহি আছে তেওঁলোকৰ লোকেশনবোৰ নোট কৰি ৰাখিব, আৰু এই কান্ট্ৰিজ লোকেশনবোৰ আমি আমাৰ ডেইলি কুইজতো আমি মেনশন কৰো, কাইন্ডলি আমাৰ কুইজো ফলো কৰিব। Now the Moldovan ship MV Rosas, while stopping in Greece to refuel, the ship's owner told the Russian and Ukrainian sailors that he had run out of money and they would have to pick up additional cargo to cover the travel costs, which made necessary detour to Beirut. But their ship was detained by local port authorities due to unpaid fees and never resumed its journey, with a Lebanese court ordering the ammonium nitrate to be stored in a warehouse where it languished neglected for 6 years. So Lebanese court order dile se ammonium nitrate khini tate store kora uchit warehouse. But the mystery element intrudes when one questions how the ammonium nitrate suddenly caught fire and exploded with such savage fury and tragic consequences. One must note that recent history of Lebanon has been turbulent. with the end of the country's devastating 1975 to 1989 civil war not bringing about the political and economic stability that should have resulted. The blast has occurred at a time when Lebanon is not only trying to curb the spread of COVID-19 but is also neck deep in economic crisis, which has triggered large anti-government protests, with the Lebanese people blaming the ruling elite for failing to carry out the sweeping reforms necessary to solve the country's problems. So basically a blast to এনেকুৱা সময়ত হৈছে য'ত এটা করোনা ভাইরাসৰ এটা পেন্ডেমিক চলি আছে তাৰে ওপৰত দেশত খুব এটা পলিটিক্যাল এন্ড ইকোনমিক আনষ্টেবিলিটি চলি আছে আৰু ইকোনমিক ক্ৰাইসিছত আছে আৰু খুব এন্টি গভৰ্নমেন্ট প্ৰটেষ্ট চলি আছে আৰু লেবানিজ পিপল বিলাকে ব্লেম কৰি আছে যে ruling এলিটৰ ফেইলিয়াৰ হৈছে to carry out the sweeping reforms necessary to solve the country's problems. Just before the pandemic had ended, protests, thousands of people had taken to the streets, leading to the resignation of former Prime Minister Saad Hariri and his unity government. Adding to the de facto instability, a gote instability majote external কিছুমান elements আছে যাক ইয়াত discuss কৰা হৈছে, what it is discussed here. The country is in at the moment is the harsh reality that the Lebanon continues to be an easy target for interference by external powers, such as seen in the influence wielded by the Shia Hezbollah movement, the most powerful military and political group in Lebanon, again which is backed by Iran and Syria, and acts as a mentor for other Islamist militant groups such as the Hamas. Hamas the militant group hoy based on Palestine. So students দেখিছেনে যে এটা topic on Lebanon on the explosion তাতে কিছুমান multiple topic of geostrategical importance যাতে ৰেজ হৈছে সো এই পইণ্টবোৰ নোট কৰিব student সকলে যে শিয়া হেজবুল্লাহ মুভমেন্ট কোন দেশৰ লগত হামাস কোন দেশৰ লগত কাইন্ডলি আপোনালোকে নোট কৰি পেনে আমাৰ ইউটিউব কমেন্টত কমেন্ট কৰিব পাৰে তেতিয়া আপোনালোকৰ কি হ'ব কমেন্ট কৰিলে আপোনালোকৰ মেমৰিটো ইনষ্টল হৈ থাকিব and it will be an exercise আমি সদায় যিকোনো ইনফৰমেশন যিকোনো টপিক অলপ মাল্টিপল সেন্সেস ইউজ কৰিব লাগে মানে যেতিয়া আমি কিবা বস্তু পঢ়ো আমি মুখেৰে শব্দ কৰি পঢ়িব লাগে এটা সাউন্ড হিচাপে পঢ়ো আমি যদি নেট সার্চ কৰো ভিজুয়ালস দেখা পাও তেনেকৈ পঢ়ো আমি যদি ইউটিউব কমেন্টত কৰি লিখি দিও তেলে হে লিখাও হল সো মাল্টিপল টাস্কস এটা সিঙ্গেল টপিকত কৰিলে কি হয় হে টপিকটো ইজিলি আমাৰ মেমৰিত ইনষ্টল হৈ থাকে So finally, we have discussed this editorial. Further development hole ami discuss again korim. Now with this, we are ending the editorial discussion and also the Assam Tribune discussion. So at Civil Services Achievers Point, we have these offline regular classes, we have online classes, we have the free initiatives, and we have our mock interview sessions. So as you can see, students at Civil Services Achievers Point, we have a complete comprehensive guidance program for right from the prelim stage to the interview stage. So students are encouraged to avail these programs and ensure a rank in the upcoming exams. Thank you.